And now for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And, well, we're here for another special episode, number 407, a special, let's call it True Confessions episode, to round out our year. And, by the way, this is for Friday, December 29th, 2023. I hope you all are planning a happy New Year. And with me, as always, is my happy New Year guy, my friend, my colleague, and a guy who definitely, well, at times can look like the baby New Year, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
Because of my bald head? I can't believe you led with that. We're supposed to be positive going into the
baby
next
New Year. Yeah.
And here you are coming out with the bald.
You're going to have to find a picture of baby New Year to show everybody that's watching on video.
Yeah, nobody. I'll put the baby new. I'll use the baby New Year image on our little podcast square for this episode.
That is so perfect.
Just for you.
Just for me. Thank you. The baby New Year.
Are you planning anything for the new? What are you? Are you a New Year's Eve guy?
No.
What are
I'm the opposite of that.
Are you hep to the clubs and
no, not even close. What we typically do is we typically go out for dinner, a really nice dinner, the night before, on the 30th. And I haven't heard from my head of social planning, that would be my wife,
yes,
what we will be doing on the 30th, but I suspect it will be something like we normally do, which is to go out on the 30th and go to a really nice dinner because there's nobody there. And then on the 31st, we bunk up, right? There is nothing that happens. We turn out all the lights and, we have a little champagne. We have a great home cooked meal. Don't worry about going out. And maybe we make it to East Coast New Year's and watch the New Year's Rockin' Eve, usually the Dick Clark version of that.
You make it to 9.
Yeah, make it to around 9 o'clock and then go, hey, Happy New Year. And then we go to sleep. Yeah. So it's.
Does she listen to this podcast?
Elizabeth? No.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I don't think she's listened to ever one episode.
Yeah. My wife doesn't listen either.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up is maybe she wants you to plan this year.
No, she does not. Nobody wants me to plan anything. No, there is no. Maybe
that's what she wants.
No,
that's her. She's like,
nope.
Take some initiative.
Nope, dude. I'm 31 years into this whole mess, and so I'm pretty self-aware at this point.
You know.
If you know, you know. Is exactly right. I will say, January 1st, we do make sort of a ritual out of things, because as we've talked about before, you and I have talked about. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or not, but that's typically when I do my big journaling, my plan for the new year. It's when I write down my word. It's when I write down my intentions. And
you love that day. You love.
I love sort of sinking in on New Year's Day and again cooking a really lovely home cooked meal and then spending a good amount of time in front of a journal and thinking about life and doing all those things. So yes, that will be the weekend plan.
It's funny. I downloaded a little. I'm totally into the whole goal setting thing and review of the year. And I've got a little thing for my journal this year. Sahil Bloom, which I subscribe to his newsletter. He's got 7 questions to ask yourself before that planning process happens. And I've got it here in front of me. And one is like, what's one thing you changed your mind about in 2023? And just thinking about those types of things. They're different questions.
I love it.
I'm excited to go into that process.
Will you put that in the show notes?
I will. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's I forgot the name of Sahil's newsletter, but really, really good stuff. And mostly his is about lifestyle, critical thinking, strategic thinking, those types of things. So I
like it. Definitely. I want to see that
for a long time. A lot of it's stuff that we talk about that we sometimes teach, but they're really good reminders for me. And he had a newsletter recently that talked about get ready for your 2024 plan. And I was like, oh, it's good. He really did a good job because he set it up as a downloadable ebook that subscribers got for free, obviously. And I printed it out, and it's in really good form. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But not that you asked, but we do our New Year's Eve with our group of friends every year. And this year, we're going down to Columbus to stay the night. I don't know if it's New Year's Eve, but we're going down there, and we're staying at one of the breweries has a hotel. Well,
that's nice.
Where I think it's one of those hotels, and somebody's gonna yell at me. I don't remember the name of what it's called, but where that you actually can get draft beer in your room. Like it's on the wall, and so I think we're just gonna get a suite, and we're just gonna sit around and
that's the most Pulitzy thing I've ever heard of. Right there is.
I think it's in the shower, actually. Believe it or not, that you can.
The only thing that would make that completely perfect is if there was a tap for Jack Daniels for JK. That would make that.
Yes, he doesn't need. He needs to take a break for an hour and just drink beer. So he doesn't. But anyways, so we're gonna do that. It's gonna be
great
super
news.
fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Super fun, and we're gonna do that. But it's interesting. You and I wanted to do a special episode, but we didn't know exactly what to do. And then we said, hey, let's just throw it out to our LinkedIn audiences.
That's right.
We got like 60 or 70 comments combined.
You got a lot more than I did, I think.
Oh, it were a lot of comments.
On both.
A lot of good fun.
Really good comments.
And it's interesting. There were some that were voted up, and I guess we're picking a couple that were voted up the most, if you will, and commented on, and to do our special episode. So what are we going to be doing in this special episode?
So it's a great point, because it may not have been the most commented up, but it was also ones that we thought would be novel, right? That would be interesting to hear, and not stuff that we talk about every week. Because, a couple of people mentioned football, which is very kind. Thank you very much.
There are a few out there that said, do your football episode.
Yeah. And it did happen. It did happen that people did comment on it. So
maybe that's the next special episode. We do a NFL playoff preview.
Yeah. Because both our teams should be in it.
Nobody's ever asked for.
Both our teams should be in it. So there you go.
Don't bite your tongue.
Your
Cowboys are, as we record this, are already in it. You can't say that kind of stuff in Cleveland. Like as soon as you say that, we've made the playoffs, like you just jinxed it. So I'm not saying anything. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to take it a game at a time. We're going to give our best.
The difference in the Browns this year is that instead of finding a way to lose, they're finding a way to win. So
that's the only. Yeah, it's funny. It's almost the exact same. Season in reverse. We're just winning the close games instead of losing the close games.
Yeah,
so It's funny how you just learn to win.
Yeah,
it just takes a long. It's only taken us 37 years to learn to win.
And that is the perfect segue into the show, because this is all about how do we learn to win. It's our true confession. So this came Gina, by the way. Hi, Gina. Gina Ballerin, who was sort of the source of this, and Ruth. Hi, Ruth. The source of both of these comments, but they sort of encapsulate a couple of things that a few people actually talked about, which was talking about our things that we wish we hadn't done, or mistakes that we've made, or things we wish we had done differently. Basically, a true confessions, if you will, around in our careers, and the things maybe even this year, things that we would have done differently, or things that we wish we would have stopped doing, or, basically mistakes, and coming clean on sort of the things that we've learned and how to learn to win by making those mistakes. And then the second thing, given time constraints, because we've each got a couple of those. Let's be clear. We've each got a lot of those, two of which.
Like, how do you choose? Right, I've failed so many times. It's you know what?
Choose your favorite failure.
It would be nice to get our wives on just to talk about all the things we do wrong. That would be a great episode. That would be one of those 8 episode seasons.
That's right.
That just never
ends. That's a whole story arc right there as with regard to that. And then the second thing, given time, is really getting up on our soapboxes and talking about, coming back to our snarkiness, as it were, and talking about what other people should stop doing, what we've seen in marketing over the last year or a little more, and what people should really stop doing that we see that is either annoying or that we just see not producing any results, or what we think in the new year that, where the focus should really shift, that seems like it's not shifting. So fun stuff.
Perfect. And because we had a wonderful predictions episode last, if you didn't catch it, please check it out. One of our best episodes ever, I have to say, humbly. But I went first every time. So this episode, I would like to leave it to you to share your example. And we're going to start with our true confessions, right? That's what we're starting with.
That's right.
So you have the mic. I'm
that's
looking
true.
I'm going to sit back.
I do have a mic.
Relax.
Yeah.
Listen.
It's a lean back moment. It's a lean back moment.
So back.
Well, and funny enough, ironically enough, I was too leaned back is really the sort of the underlying theme here. So for many of you who have known me for any amount of time, you know that I've been out on my own, as, sort of call it freelancer, call it solopreneur, call it small business owner. I've sort of been all of those things, in the various 11, 12 years now that I've been doing this, since leaving my company job where I had a full-time 40-hour a week, that's funny, job as a startup. I was the CMO of a startup company. I was CMO of a startup software company and a CMO of a startup web content management enterprise software company. So, read into that, boring. But interestingly, the job certainly wasn't boring, trying to grow a startup enterprise software company from the ground up. And it's where I met my little pal Joe here and Baby New Year.
Your little pal. Thank you. I'm the New Year's baby and your little pal.
That's right.
Thank you for that.
My little pal Joe. It makes me laugh.
I swear to
anyway,
God.
So the thing is, I was there 8 years. I started in 2001. After I left the world of advertising agencies and consultancies, where I had spent a good amount of my early part of my career coming out of television, which was the earliest part of my career. And I joined as the head of product, head of marketing for that company, helping shape the product, helping shape the marketing and the brand and everything for that company, and going through 2 rounds of Silicon Valley funding and the whole thing. And the key was that, there came a point where we moved the business really far. Like, we moved the business really well. And by the way, content marketing had a huge role to play there, building that organization, building the team, building our skill, building ourselves as a little media company and thought leader was really rewarding and satisfying. It was hard work. It was good work. It was interesting work. And so from 2002 till about 2007, let's call it, it was really great. And then, of course, we all know what started to happen in 2007, 2008, 2009 with the economy and where things were going. And things were really struggling for our business. And it was clear to me that as we took a second round of funding and looked to expand the business, I was not the right guy. I was definitely not the right guy to lead that company into the next, we had grown the company to a respectable revenue number. But I wasn't the right guy to lead that company. I wasn't the right guy to lead the marketing in that organization. And, and it came with some tension between me and the CEO and certainly tension with other parts of the organization. And not that there was anything personal. It was all professional. And it was all, I was just not, it was my time. And what I found is that my ego, in terms of saying, I have to make this work. In other words, what happened was my emotions got the better of me, and I was thinking, I have to make this work, even though I'm finding myself less interested, I'm finding myself less passionate, and I'm finding myself sort of in a spot where I really should go because it would be better for the company if I left. And I wanted to go out on my own. I had always wanted to go out on my own. And so the hindsight sort of, you go, oh, hindsight is 2020. Well, I should have left, 3 years prior to that. And by the way, if I had done so, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go out and teach content marketing and be a consultant in it and go all in. And I met this guy, Joe, and he was inspiring to me. And I wanted to do all those things. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger on it because my ego was getting in the way of saying, I can't quit. I can't quit. I can't quit. I can't quit. And ultimately, it took the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009, which is a weird and ironic thing to have the financial crisis get to a point of being so pressure filled that I said, I want to go out on my own. And I remember having this conversation with my wife about going out on my own and striking out on a consulting thing. This is, 2008. You and I had the conversation. You were like, are you all in on this? And I'm like, yes, I'm all in on this. And ultimately, I made that decision in probably the worst economic conditions I could possibly find. And it felt amazing. It was the most amazing thing. And so my mistake, my sort of regret is that honestly, I didn't do it sooner. I didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust myself enough to say it's time. I should have gone 3 years earlier.
It's funny because I remember all that fairly well.
Yeah.
It was such a help to me because I didn't want to get into consulting and you loved it. You really wanted to do it. And that's where I was like, we have these consulting opportunities. I'd love for you to do it because I want to focus on other things.
Yeah.
But so you feel you would have been 2 or 3 years ahead of the game and been able to take more of the opportunity for when content marketing was really going if you would have quit sooner?
Yes, I do. I do because I had and we've talked a little bit about this on the show before when we talked about our own sort of marketing journeys. But what I feel like I missed was the ramp up time, right? I don't feel like I missed the trend necessarily because in many ways
we were pretty early.
You and I created this trend in a lot of ways, which I'm super proud about, and building Content Marketing Institute and the things that we did together. So I wouldn't have missed the timing on that because it was very early days for CMI anyway. But what I missed was my own personal brand and building my personal brand up so that I was coming into our situation with a much stronger positioning than I had. In other words, I was still completely unknown to the world of content marketing and thought leadership in digital marketing and all of that when I went out on my own. And I would have, I would have had a longer time to sort of build that up and build some, I can still remember 2007 when I was reading your blog, trying to make the decision about going, and I set up my own personal blog and stuff like that. And I can remember, I can remember submitting to you my blog as sort of a good content marketing blog at the time. And I think you were very kind and gave me like 18th or 19th or 20th or something like that. And I was pissed. Like I was really annoyed that I wasn't higher. But if I had no visitors, I had like 10 posts or something like that. It was just, it was, of course I was going to be 18th or 19th or 20th and probably more appropriately 40th or 50th on your list. But it was people like, you were putting up like Jay Bear and Jason Falls and all those folks who were doing incredible work and had been for some time.
They've been doing it for a long time.
And that was the key, right? It was like, and so in hindsight, it's like, oh, I wish I could have those 36 months back where I could actually start that process in earnest and hit that trail, that social media / content marketing trend in a much stronger position.
It's funny. So it actually parlays really well with my timetable and the first example that I want to talk about, because as you know, and a lot of people listening to this know, I worked at Penton Media from 2000 to 2007, and just lucky enough because the first recession, if you will, that happened in 2001, 2002, when I started in Penton Media, which was their content marketing division, I think, and I was a project manager, I think there was something like 7 or 8 people between me and the CEO of Penton Media. And by the time all those layoffs happened in 01 and 02, I was actually ended up reporting to the CEO. So that was a right place, right time.
Yeah.
So it was great. I was in this position, and we grew that division, custom media division, did a really good job. And probably starting in 05, I wanted to launch a business. I had this idea for what was called custompublishers.com. Believe it or not, I still have the logo today, and I loved that logo. Yeah, because the industry at the time was called custom publishing.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And I ended up staying on for all of 2006 because David Nussbaum, who was the CEO at that time, he sat down with me. He said, "Joe," he says, "there's no secret here. Penton went bankrupt. So the stock that when I started, the stock was worth $34 a share, and 18 months after I started there, it went down to 7 cents." So he could see Penton went through a lot. Basically, they overbought. They bought Internet World. They went way in debt.
Yeah,
couldn't service the debt. All kinds of horrible things happened. Anyways, Custom Media was one of the all-star. That was a great department. Angela Vanucci was a key part of that department. We were sort of running this thing together and doing a good job. But David Nussbaum sat me down, and because I was thinking about leaving, I think he knew it, to start this thing called custompublishers.com. And I'll talk about that in a second. He said, "Would you stay on a little bit? We're going to sell." And luckily I did, because I had some options, did get some money out of that starting in 07. And so then Penton was sold. It worked out really well. And I left in the end of March of 2007. And then April 2nd of 2007 started what was called Junta 42. So instead of custompublishers.com, I named it Junta 42. I'm not going to get into the details of it. I thought it was a great Web 2.0 name at the time. And the idea was we were going to be the eHarmony for content marketing, because over 2006, I really pivoted hard into content marketing. I've been using that phrase on and off, but I really believe long-term content marketing was going to be the phrase for the industry. So went in there, and then while I was getting the site up and running for Junta 42, this matching service, I launched the blog you talked about, which was called the Content Marketing Revolution, Joe Polizzi's blog, and I talked about content marketing. So launched that way. It launched the product in 2007. So this matching service, and I thought the idea was amazing. I thought the idea was the greatest thing in the world. It's like, oh my God, all these brands need to create valuable, compelling, relevant content. And there's all these agencies and content providers out there that have these services. We were going to be that middle layer that we're going to put these two together. I put everything into it. I sunk well over $100,000 plus. And we didn't have this kind of money. I was throwing everything we had at it, started maxing out credit card debt, whatever. So fast forward, we, built the product. Everything came together. Fast forward to 2009, because you were around for some of it, because we started to get these content marketing consulting things, even as Junta 42. And the problem is that Junta 42 financially didn't work at all. So I was offering a product in the form of this matching service to a bunch of people. So two things. First of all, most people didn't know what content marketing was. Duh, right? Like nobody knew what it was. It was still a new thing. And on the other side, we were targeting content marketing agencies to spend money with us for an annual agreement. Well, you know what agencies don't spend money on? Marketing.
Right. Right.
So that was a horrible decision. So the horrible decision was, and I kept with it way too long, and I wish I would have pivoted sooner. And it got to September 2009 when I was going back to these agencies who were in the system, who were spending $5,000 a year in our system. And I was basically calling them up saying, "Hey, are you going to re-up?" And our best case study, long story short with that, our best case study that we delivered $1 million client to ended up not re-upping because they said that our system didn't deliver enough ROI. And I get off that call, I'm like, I delivered you $1 million project.
Right.
How much more ROI? And I remember I got off the phone. I went to the backyard, teared up a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to have to go find a job. Let's get my LinkedIn profile in shape. This thing is not working at all. I have completely failed. Luckily, I took about a 2-week breather about feeling sorry for myself and came back and said, okay, I started to look at blog comments and I started to look at the emails I was getting. And basically they were, hey, Joe, are there any events that I could send my team to around content marketing? Joe, is there any training available for content? Joe, is there any consulting opportunities? That's where you and I started to talk.
Yeah.
And that's where we were like, oh, there's something here, but I'm pushing this product that I loved. I fell in love with the product. That was a big mistake. Pushing it down their throats didn't work. And then the story is I took a cocktail napkin and I wrote out the plan that you approved, that you thought that was a great plan. I said, okay, we're going to build the leading online destination for content marketing. It was the blog and the newsletter. We're going to create the leading trade magazine for content marketing, Chief Content Officer Magazine. We're going to create the #1 in-person event for content marketing. That became Content Marketing World. And the mistake was I fell in love with the product and didn't listen to what the audience's needs and pain points were. And once I got my head out of my butt and realized that, May 4th, 2010, Content Marketing Institute formally launched, and it immediately took off. And Content Marketing World, which was September of 2011, which we were hoping for 100 people to come to Cleveland, Ohio, ended up getting over 600. And 4 years later, we did 4,000.
Yeah.
So that was that story.
Yeah. It's kept me fat and happy. That's for sure. It all worked out for sure.
It was so close to not happening. You know how close. I was so depressed at the time because I made this big decision to leave this exec. I was getting paid really good money at benefits at Penton. They made the turnaround. They're doing it still around today, just not called Penton anymore. And went to this and just made a horrible mistake by falling in love with products. So that's when I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs all the time and people that are building audiences and saying, don't fall in love with these. Build an audience that knows, likes, and trusts you. Become the leading informational provider. Ultimately, they will tell you what they will buy from you. You just have to be patient with it.
That's exactly right. Well, I think that's the lesson in all of that, right? Which is from both of our perspectives on that thing is trusting your gut in terms of where you're choosing to spend your time and really reflecting on those things and not letting your negative ego or your ego get in the way of those things. Because by the way, Crown Peak in my situation it was fine. Without me there, they did great things. They ultimately had their own exit, did a merger, then private equity bought that, and then they've ultimately become I would call them a sort of high-end mid-range player in the web content management space, and still going to this day. But the key is that they were fine without me and I was fine without them. And I should have just recognized that. And what I think you've so wonderfully articulated there was you were, trusting your gut to be right. You know what I mean? And it's a hard thing. It's a really, really hard thing to do. And it's easy to see it in hindsight and it's so hard to recognize it in the moment.
I think to your point, I think trusting your gut to be right, but also it's okay when you're wrong and move on.
Yeah, of course.
I was standing so solid behind this idea for this matching service. I didn't want to let it go. I let it go on a year too long.
Yeah, that's right.
And just losing money. And I'm like, finally I'm like, I got to get a job here. I got no more money. I got no more credit cards.
Yep.
I got nowhere else to go. What am I going to do with this thing? So
I got no place else to go.
I can't do it.
I got no place else. What movie that's from? I got no place else to go.
No.
Oh, how about this? It's Officer and a Gentleman. Great movie. Louis Gossett Jr. and Richard Gere. Richard Gere,
I don't know. Made me think of
doing push-ups in the mud. He's like, "You want to get out of here, mayonnaise?" And Richard Gere goes, "I got no place else to go." Sorry,
that's an older reference now.
That's a good older reference. Yes,
that's a good,
indeed.
That's a good sign.
All right, let's take a break here before we get to our next one of our True Confessions, and let's pay a couple of bills, shall we? Hey, did you know that HubSpot just launched an AI chatbot that helps you build awesome campaigns at scale with just a few prompts? Yeah, it's called Campaign Assistant, and it's a totally free-to-use AI tool that will transform the way you build marketing campaigns at scale. And the best part? Well, the best part is it works seamlessly with all of HubSpot's marketing and sales tools to scale your output across email, social, and more. So AI your way to the most effective campaigns yet at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant. Can I tell you about a great podcast? It's called Inclusion in Marketing, and it's hosted by Sonia Thompson and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Inclusion in Marketing digs into important topics like belonging, customer experience, diversity, and how you can practice inclusive marketing authentically. One of the more awesome recent episodes featured a cool exploration into the meaning of belonging, all related to Beyoncé's Renaissance World Tour. Yeah, it was really interesting. So go find it and follow it. You'll find the Inclusion in Marketing podcast wherever you follow your favorite pods.
All right, you're up. Next, what do you got?
All right. Well, it's a great segue from paying the bills with advertising, because I mean, this one is quick for me, which is this year, this particular year. Well, it's really been, let's call it a challenge for me, or a true confession, if you will, of me for the last couple of years, which is leaning way too far into wanting to do good content marketing, thought leadership, et cetera, and not leaning nearly enough into direct marketing. This is something that has been a challenge for me personally, all the way going back to when I moved out here to Los Angeles and wanted to be a rock star, right? Which was the thing that I learned about being a musician or being a writer in Hollywood is that being a musician or a writer in Hollywood is not the job. The job is a sales job. The job is a networking and sales and direct marketing job. And you are selling yourself. You are networking yourself. You are marketing yourself. And I hated doing that. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like feeling like I was pitching me. I always feel uncomfortable in pitching me. I always feel weird about it, sort of promoting me. But that's the job. The writing and the playing of the music and all of that is quite honestly, part of the pay, right? Getting to do those experiences is part of what you do for a living. So what I have struggled with, true confession style, in the last couple of years is doing exactly that, right? Sort of being louder, not necessarily loud, but louder at least, or at least mentioning the fact that I need to sell consulting services. I need to sell training. I need to sell things that I do. I'm not just the talent, and I'm not just the content, and I need to actually focus in on occasionally letting my audience and letting people know that, hey, by the way, you can buy stuff too. And it's not I wouldn't say I can do it for other people. I did it for CMI for years. I've done it for other companies for years. I've done it for others. It's hard to do it for my own self. And if in a perfect world, if I had a ton of budget and a ton of things, I would hire people to do this for me. But I need to recognize that it's ultimately my responsibility, and it's something that I'm not terribly good at.
So what is the biggest thing that you are, of all that, what's the biggest thing that you're going to change in 24?
Well, it's funny because I had a client not too long ago, who, let's call them a CMI-like company, small business, family-owned business, but probably doing, let's call it $10 to $15 million a year in revenue. So they had a number of employees that they're a going concern, focused on content, focused on events, focused on training for their particular niche, and they basically, for the first few years of their business, didn't really need to do any marketing. They were skyrocketing quickly, right? Their community ate up what they were doing. And so they got a little bit successful quickly. And then they really started to struggle with moving the needle at all. and they just weren't doing any marketing at all. They weren't really doing any more. They were creating great content. They were creating great events for their customers. They were creating all these things, but they weren't really doing any marketing or advertising or sort of letting people know that they existed in a new way. And when I went in there and did consulting for them, I kind of, they said, well, what should we do? Like, what should we change? And, about our marketing strategy. And I kind of snarkily said, well, have one, basically. In other words, do some marketing. That was my advice to them, was do some marketing. And it's now my own advice to myself, which is do some, right? I need to, and I'm working very diligently over the holiday and have been over the last, about a 24 marketing plan where I'm going to do some. I'm actually going to put my own cobbler's kids to work and make some shoes for myself, basically.
Very good. No. Yeah. It's I mean, you and I have talked offline, talk about confessions. I mean, I know it's been a challenging year for you. I mean, you've been very honest with our listeners about it. So, yeah. But it sounds like you're feeling good about going into the next year. And
I'm feeling I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I think the economy's turning. We're starting to see a little bit of a turn here, and I think, again, going back to our predictions of last week, if any of those predictions that I talked about are even remotely true, we should see an uptick in the need for companies figuring out their content strategy, their content marketing platforms, the way that they manage their operations, their measurement strategies, their technology selections, all the things that we do for a living. And so I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic around the business of change. In other words, process change, technology change, creative change, content change being a thing in 2024, and the economy sort of giving permission to marketers to do that. So I'm feeling like it will resonate, if that's the right word. Yeah. But yeah, I honestly, I don't know that being louder this year would have made a big difference. But what I do know is that not being quiet didn't help anything.
It's funny, the two that you shared, just this ongoing, you could run themes, a few themes through it. I'm changing I was going to talk about something else. I'm changing it to this year. And what was a very challenging year for me personally with some decisions that I had to make. And some of this because we would talk about before the programs. But I'm, as most people know, I'm really into goal setting. I'm really into planning. I take it very, very seriously. And I had a plan when we launched the Tilt in the beginning of 21, I was never going to start a business again. And then I did because of COVID. But I set a plan and I said, okay, I think this is where it's going to go. And I'm going to fund this thing until 24. And then we'll see, hopefully we'll get to a point where we could sell it to somebody else or whatever the case is. Well, the beginning of 23 came on and the Tilt changed a lot, as well as the event, which was Creator Economy Expo and now Content Entrepreneur Expo, because we started with a heavy focus on social tokens. Tilt coin is part of that. I was very intrigued by that model. I was wondering if that could be, having a token model. It could be a viable long-term business model for creators. And that really blew up the wrong way into 2022. And the Tilt became we had a really good newsletter, still is today, 30,000 plus. We had a small but possibly growing event. And the business model became almost exactly the same as what Content Marketing Institute was. So I was repeating what I'd done before. After what I thought was we were doing something different. That's what really intrigued me about the model, because I'm like, this hasn't been done before. We did the whole Tilt coin thing. We saw a lot of really interesting excitement about that. We saw, I was learning all kinds of stuff, and then no, it's not the way it's going to be. We were using rented land. The rally thing didn't work out at all. Oh, boy. The Tilt coin is not a thing anymore. Yeah, the whole bunch of, you and I learned a whole lot about that.
It's so funny that I forgot about that.
You forgot about your whole social token?
Oh my God. Coin? I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
So we got it. And so
what a disaster.
So moving into 22 and 23, I was like, okay, that's fine. I know this business model.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it didn't excite me anymore.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, you planned, you set the plan. I got it written down. You're going to run this through until 24. So I'm really at odds with that. I'm like, what are you going to do with that, Joe? And then finally I was just really depressed about the whole thing. And finally I said, I needed to do what made me happy. Like I needed. So I said, you know what? I'm changing that plan. I'm going to allow myself to mark an F in that it didn't work out for various reasons. And I said, I would like to give this to somebody who really wants it because it's very valuable. There's a lot of things going on. The team is amazing. They do a wonderful job with it. And I felt like I was letting them down because my heart wasn't all the way in it. And so made the decision, and it really worked out well. We're our biggest partner.
Oh, it's genius.
Lulu wanted to launch their own event. We started to talk. I said, "Don't launch your own event. Why don't you just purchase CEX and you can have your own event, and then you've got the tilt to market it and the whole thing." And it worked out, and that thing was closed in August after a bunch of conversations with a wonderful Lulu team, and now it's worked really well. And now you got a great team around that supporting the Tilt and CEX. I'm doing the things I want to do, which I get to host CEX, and I get to work on a new project, which is called Tilt Publishing, which is a whole new thing about selling your books directly that really hasn't been done before. So I get to now I like to work on new things. So making that, thank God, I guess I didn't say, no, you're going to make it work because you wrote the goal down that you were going to stay true till 24.
Well, that's the thing. That's the lesson from the previous one, right? Which is you said this is, you didn't fall in love with the product to the point where you sort of kept it going in a zombie state, right? It was, you made the hard decision early, which was good for everybody. It's good for everybody.
It's worked out so well. I can't tell you. The team's happier. Lulu's just a great organization.
Yeah.
And it's sort of breathed new life into CEX, which we're expecting the biggest crowd, we've ever had for that event in May. So yeah, it's sometimes you got to get out of your own way. But I was also willing, by the way, a lot of people don't know this, and this might be news to a few people that are close to me. Like I was ready to just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like if Lulu didn't come to the table, I probably would have just ended the whole thing.
Sure.
I probably said, I'm done. Life is too short. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with it. So, but luckily that just
rally coin.
Didn't happen.
Oh my God. I had put that, I had excised that from my memory bank, but that is,
it was very really exciting for a while.
It was exciting for about 22 minutes. Yeah. It was truly exciting for like 22 minutes. And then it just got stupid.
I'll tell you what, in COVID did so many horrible things to my anxiety and my thinking that I'm like, I want to go back to 2020. And this is it's a very selfish thing to talk about because a lot of horrible things happen. But for me personally, like I was in a bad state. And why did I ever think that starting a business right in the middle of COVID was a good idea? Because I still do. I still want to write novels. But why didn't you tell me, Robert? You could have stopped me.
I was dealing with my own bullshit.
I know. We were both dealing with it.
The good news is we brought this thing back. So that
we did. This was fun. It's interesting. We stopped recording in 18. I went on sabbatical and whatever, brought it back in 19. But I did miss. We didn't find excuses to talk on a regular basis.
No,
we talk every week.
That's right.
Now, but so our excuse for you and I to talk every week is this podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's be super clear. We don't do this for the money. We don't do this for the money, folks. This is not
it's a labor of love.
This is not one of those strong revenue streams that we speak so highly of.
Although it does drive revenue.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's lovely. It's wonderful. It's a thing. Yeah. Yeah, it ain't for the money. This is for the love, for sure.
That's exactly right.
All right.
How are we on? How you want to end this?
I want to end it very quickly. Let's get on our soapboxes really quickly here. Thanks to Ruth and the lovely dog Lucy. We have to also thank Lucy there.
I think Lucy
and Ruth come as a team.
This one into LinkedIn. This might be a Lucy question.
It might be. Anyway, let's get up on our soapboxes and just say we can really quickly go through these, like what we think. I've got 3 basically, but what do you?
I've got 2.
What do you want people to stop doing, or what do you think are stupid? Or speaking of Rallycoin, right? What is just the dumbest things that marketers are continuing to do?
The things that I'm seeing, the things I'm seeing over and over again, and having conversations with not only brands but content entrepreneurs out there, is they start some content marketing initiative. That's a newsletter, a podcast, a YouTube series, whatever it is, custom magazine. Doesn't matter what it is. It's always the same. You don't put any promotion dollars behind it. They think that organically this thing is going to happen, and it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Yeah. It's very, very rare that you can organically alone build an audience, especially from the start. You have to build in a promotion strategy, and through paid, in a lot of cases, paid advertising of some kind, or paid partnerships. And I'm just, to be honest, I'm so tired of over and over again looking at these plans, and I'm like, well, how are you going to get the word out that you're doing this thing? And they don't. They rely on whatever program. YouTube will do it for me. Or I'm sure somebody will talk about my podcast, word of mouth. I'm sure I'll get found in search engines, but they have no really good SEO plan. It's ridiculous, and I'm tired of it.
So, there you go. All right. I have a related one, which is, and it is still to this day the number one thing that we solve in our consulting work, which is getting marketing teams, let's just say businesses, full stop, because it's not marketing's fault; it's the business's fault. And it's still getting trained this way in university, which is annoying as all get out. But it's the idea of container first and then content. So that's the way that where marketing teams, businesses still think in terms of campaigns and containers. And then how do we fill those things with content? So the project becomes, how do I get an ebook? How do I get a web page? How do I get a blog post? How do I get a podcast? How do I get a white paper? How do I get a thing? And then the team has to figure out, okay, now that we have this empty container thing that we have to fill, how do we fill it full of? And we have to switch that. We have to start switching it, which is, what's the story? What's the content? What's the idea? What's the cool thing that we want to express over time, and then figure out all the containers that might be appropriate for it. It just has to switch, because when we see it switch, it works. It just works better. And it's just it's this weird muscle that organizations can't get themselves over, to not think container first. Like, just to your point, right? Not promoting it, right? It's the idea of, let's build a podcast, for example. We're going to make a podcast. Okay, great. Now we're going to make a podcast. Okay. Well,
what should we talk about?
What should we talk about? Exactly. Well, let's interview customers. Okay, great. That's
never been done.
Right. Now, nobody needs another one of those. Well, okay, we'll do something else. Well, in other words, you stood and finally you get down to the least common denominator of whatever content you're going to do. And nobody goes, is a podcast really the best vehicle for this? Mm-hmm. And that's the real difference. And so, that's one of mine.
True. And you see it over and over again. Oh my God, TikTok's taken off. We need to be doing something there. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you really don't. Nope.
Yeah. I mean, even to the point where one of our sort of, somebody, a client will come to us and say, how do we move the needle the most in the first month of our new content marketing approach? Switch the intake form, because everybody has one on their Slack or their intranet or something. There's an intake form where demand gen or the C-suite or the sales group or somebody could request content. Make a switch. Change the drop-down box from containers, because you have it, right? You drop-down box and it's all like, ebook or blog page or PowerPoint presentation or PDF file or whatever it is. Change that to You have to tell us the story you want to tell. You have to give us the value to the audience that you want to tell. We'll decide what the right container is for that.
Yeah, that'll never happen.
No, that won't happen.
They'll never. It's a great thought that'll never happen.
Yeah. All right. You got another one?
Yeah. So the hardest thing to do, you know this, we talked about this on this episode. The hardest thing to do in business is to get a customer. You get a customer that you've done something heroic. Great. You have a customer.
Yeah.
And what I see over and over in content marketing is we just forget about that. And we're so focused on this top of the funnel, lead generation, all those tactics and strategies. And they don't say, wow, we have this customer. How do we make this customer a better customer and keep this customer longer? I would love to see stop it with all the content marketing stuff at the top of the funnel just for a second.
Yeah.
And focus on the best opportunity you have is to create a better customer. Do that. So that's what I would love to see for 24 is okay. And you can measure this stuff, by the way.
For sure.
If we're sending whatever you're sending them, whatever stories you're telling them in whatever form that Robert just talked about, great. How, are they staying longer as customers? You can measure that. Are they spending more because they're getting the stuff that you're getting? This is the number one reason for content marketing is a loyalty driven strategy. That's where content marketing was born, in the loyalty driven area. I would love to see more people get back to the roots of content marketing and stop with all the lead gen stuff.
I'll tell you though, I think this will make you happy is we're starting to really see that, with our clients.
That does make me happy.
Yeah. Doubling down on what's being called customer enablement content. In other words, not the training manual of how to use the thing that you just bought or the how-to of how to use a particular interface or how to use a particular piece of machinery or whatever it is that you sold them. That's customer service in my eyes. The customer enablement is how does an electrical company help an engineer become a better engineer, or how does a software company help a company or a person become a better marketer or a better administrator or a better, whatever it is, right? And so we're starting to see a lot more effort put into that, in terms of especially in the technology sector, which has seen its own challenges in terms of lead generation in the last year, but we're seeing a doubling down on customer enablement content. So I think it's such a great lesson, and it's one that we actually are starting to see a little movement on.
Love it. That's what I've got. So if you got one or two more,
I got one more, which is it has to do with AI, which is more and more I'm starting to see. So I download a lot of thought leadership in my job because for competitive reasons, I'm downloading research reports. For client reasons, I'm going out and looking at different industries and then downloading the competitors' thought leadership and content. So I need to be sharp on not only in marketing and digital marketing and what's going on in the world of AI and all those kinds of things, but I'm also read a ton of thought leadership on behalf of my clients. So I end up knowing a lot about industries that I really don't care to know that much about, but nevertheless, that's a whole other rant. So as a result, and I have a special email address all set up for this, I get a lot of drip campaigns. I also get a lot of this on social media as well. So I get a lot of marketing automation drip campaigns because I'm immediately considered a lead as soon as I download that white paper or whatever. And more increasingly, I haven't counted, but I would hazard a guess to say the data would actually show this. I'm starting to see AI created drip campaigns where the content is clearly formulated automatically, and is templatized and is also created by AI. I'm also seeing it more and more, as we talked about on this show and last show, on our LinkedIn comments, on my Instagram comments. I'm seeing it on where the comment is my point in all this is you're not fooling anybody. That the LinkedIn DMs, the LinkedIn comments, the automated email, marketing automation emails that are coming after I download your stuff that are AI generated, I can see it. And if I can see it, others can see it. And you're not fooling anybody with this sort of approach to AI in terms of the way that you're doing these drip and sort of outbound email and social campaigns. So stop it, because it doesn't make me like you more. It makes me trust you less. So that's my soapbox.
It's almost where we were at when marketing automation first became a term, and you started to see
the Mad
all
Lib
the
stuff. Yeah,
ways.
the Mad Lib stuff. Like,
it's very similar to that.
Hello, Robert. Would you like software for your, and the funny thing is I've now gamed those systems with my little fake email address where, so my email address for anybody who wants to send me email there is please give me the paper. It's basically, it's me at pleasegivemthepaper.com. And so I'll get hi me, and sometimes I'll make up a name and I'll make up like, Bob's Big Boy is one of my common ones. So I'll get an email that says, hello, Bob's Big Boy. Would you like some more software for our, for your please give me the paper enterprise needs? It's like, oh boy.
Hello, Mr. Vandelay.
Art Vandelay. Yeah, exactly.
What's Joey's name on Friends for the soap opera? Dr.
Drake Romero. Dr. Drake Romero. Ramore or Romero.
Something like that. Yeah,
Dr. Ramare. You got it right. Okay. Dr. Drake Ramare. So, yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Do you have a last one?
No, I'm done.
That was it.
I am done. Yes, we are done.
It was exhausting.
With a fork, we are done.
This is why I stopped going to my therapist, because I have this time to talk with you and my friends.
I will be very curious. I would love for all of you to know if this was enjoyable for you to hear us basically.
What's
pontificate on our
interesting
pain.
Is we've got another 30 questions that we could just go through.
Totally. I mean, we could have done this for hours. Yeah, we could have done this for hours.
Well, I know you said that this wasn't a thing, but you could have a whole big plan for New Year's Eve. You could pick the place you're going for dinner. Like you could do it.
No, that's just no. I mean, have you met my wife? It's just not going to happen. By the way, I don't want it to happen. I'm very happy to be brought along.
I know
as a
you
sidekick,
are, but she's got to be exhausted because she's making all the decisions.
Not. She loves to do that. She loves to make our social planning, and she hates it when I do it.
Oh my God! Because the problem is, you would do it, and then you'd say, "Oh, Joe said I should do it," and then she's going to be mad at me.
Well, we'd go drink tequila and eat Mexican food, right? I mean, and that's not going to happen at all.
Well. Happy New Year, my friend. It's been a wonderful. We've had some great episodes. It's been super, super fun. We had quite a few moments where we got to see each other in person, and we'll do so again.
Indeed.
In 24. And thank you to all our listeners. It's been wonderful. Really appreciate it.
It's absolutely to you as well, my friend. It's been a delightful year despite its difficulty. One of the things has been this show, for sure. One of the things that has kept me going the whole year has been this show and doing it with you. So yeah, there we go. Happy New Year to
you.
Here we go. All right, everybody. Well, we will be back after the new year with our first show in January. So yeah, you can look forward to that, and hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, happy new year, a blessed new year. And to all of you, before we see you next week in 2024, well, just remember, it's your story to tell. Make sure you always tell it well, and we'll see you next year on This Old Marketing.